there are times where I do know that I have a different kind of like pace of thinking and understanding and responding. And I've had to accept that over time because I feel like it comes from a real cultural root in that I don't necessarily react quickly when something happens. I'm expected to respond, or even in school, when, like elementary school, when you're called on um, to answer questions, I was never prepared. I always felt like, oh, I need a bit of time to like think about what I need to say, because I always felt like I have to say something on point, smart, and if I didn't, then I should say nothing at all. And I
That's the
don't
cultural
know.
piece you're talking about there.
Yeah, yeah. And that there's that self-silencing that happens. And I think that is a generational thing as well. That's been passed on down through generations. And, it had its place and purpose, but in some situations, it really doesn't work. To be able to be an advocate for myself, because it's like, nope, you gotta like stop and listen, and then maybe respond and see how it comes back. Again, it's not just a cultural thing, it's a generational thing. It's that whole intersectionality. It's being a woman, it's being somebody who's from working class, it's being somebody who is like, around 5 feet, not, not, not over 5 feet. It's all these different things, the sizes, what have you. I've honed my abilities to be an observer first, and then possibly considering and saying something about the situation.
So you think you've taught yourself that? Like that's the piece that's not cultural? Sorry, I'm just a little turned around
I
here.
think it, I think it's both. I don't think it's just, you know, simply aligned to culture, and don't think it's simply aligned with my own sort of like personal personality ways of being. Um, I think that there are, um, I don't know how to sort of like explain it really. Sometimes words don't really work. When I think about other communities and other cultures, let's say, that some of those things I can pinpoint as that's a cultural thing. But when you get to know somebody, oftentimes it's like, oh, maybe that's more of a personal thing,
It's
you
hard for
know?
me to tell in myself too. Like, is this like just my personality, or is it like kind of from the way I was raised or my culture? And it's like, I guess everything's kind of like a weird mix of both.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's kind of hard to know what is what. And for me, I feel like in I'll say the outside the home world, perhaps I'm a bit more careful. I'm a little bit more guarded. I'm a little bit more like not myself, because I, and I know there's a lot to be said about how we like all these binaries between being an introvert and an extrovert, let's say. I see myself as an introvert, but I've had to really work hard to be in an extroverted world. It might be seen more as a personality thing, as being an introvert, but I also see it as a real cultural thing.
One thing I was trying to think about too is I consider a lot of Asian communities to be more reserved. I have friends that are super extroverted. They they love to be loud and they love to like hang out all the time with their friends and all that. But I do think almost everybody I know has like there's like a little piece of like reservedness, even in people that are super extroverted. I can't really describe it. But I
Yeah,
think that's like the kind of the cultural piece too.
yeah. Well, and whether that's considered humility, perhaps. It's confusing, it's complicated. As human beings are complicated, but then there are also just all these different ways that we kind of look at, who we are and how we are in the world and how we interact with other people.